I'm 83 years old this year, and I'd like to share a story that, quite frankly, I wish I'd heard before I made one of the biggest decisions of my later life, moving into a nursing home. If you're thinking about it for yourself, or maybe for someone you love, I hope you'll stay with me until the very end. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal 6 lessons I learned the hard way, and by the time we get to number 6, I promise you'll see just how permanent this choice can become. It's not that every nursing home is terrible or that the staff are villains. It's that I discovered I was giving up far more than I ever anticipated, and once I realized what I lost, it was almost impossible to get any of it back. People told me I'd be safer and happier. They said I'd have all the attention and professional care I needed. But if that sounds too good to be true, trust your gut. It may be exactly that. So make yourself comfortable and let me take you step by step through my personal regrets, hoping that my experience might save you some heartache down the line. The first few days I spent in the nursing home felt almost like a relief. My children helped me pack up my belongings, and everyone kept saying, "Dad, you're going to love it there." No more worrying about cleaning, cooking, or dealing with repairs. I remember thinking, well, maybe this is a new chapter of life where everything's easier. That sense of optimism didn't last. Within the first month, I began to see cracks in the picture I'd painted. I found myself missing little things I used to take for granted. And if you're older, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's as simple as walking into your own kitchen to make a cup of tea exactly the way you like it, or deciding to open the window at midnight because you can't sleep. Suddenly, all those freedoms were replaced by schedules, regulations, and a routine that wasn't mine. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what I learned during my time there. If you have a senior friend or relative who's debating a nursing home, share this video with them. You could change their life. Let's start with the first regret. I underestimated how much my daily independence mattered. Before moving in, my day was my own. I'd get up around 6 a.m. if I felt energetic, or sleep until 8 a.m. if I'd had a long night of reading. I could brew coffee, maybe make an omelet, sit by the window and watch the neighborhood come to life. In a nursing home, you wake up when they say it's time to wake up. Sure, you can sometimes ask for a little more time, but more often than not, there's a staff schedule in place. They have rounds, they have medication timings, they have a set breakfast window, and you find yourself bending to fit their routine. At first, that might sound manageable, but think about how many small decisions shape your day. What if you're not hungry at 7 a.m.? What if you like to go to bed at midnight, but the lights out routine starts at 9 p.m.? You can't just move freely whenever you want. It's not malicious. There are dozens of residents, and the staff can't customize everything for each person. But over time, that daily loss of control gets under your skin. I remember the first time I realized just how little freedom I had. I wanted to go for a walk in the garden, but I had to wait until they had someone available to accompany me. 20 minutes, 30 minutes. By the time we actually went outside, I wasn't even in the mood anymore. It may sound trivial, but it grinds you down day after day. If you've ever cherished the idea of coming and going at your leisure, of deciding spontaneously to run out to the store, or even just to sit on your porch, understand that in a nursing home, spontaneity can disappear. Ask yourself, are you truly ready to live on someone else's clock? My second regret, I never expected to feel so distant and forgotten by the people I love. Let me be clear, my family still loves me. My kids, my grandkids, my friends. They didn't stop caring, but life has a way of moving on. And when you're in a facility, you're not at the center of it. In the beginning, everyone visited often. My son would drop by with groceries, though I didn't really need them, just to chat. My grandkids would bring me pictures they drew. My daughter made Sunday visits part of her routine. But as the weeks turned into months, those visits became phone calls. And then even those phone calls grew shorter. "Dad, I'm sorry. Something came up. I can't make it today." I completely understand that people have their own responsibilities. But the realization that your world is shrinking while theirs continues to expand is a bitter pill to swallow. And here's the heartbreaking part. The more you feel left out, the less you want to inconvenience anyone by asking for attention. So you don't call as much, you don't text as much, and that gap grows wider. If you've ever sat in a quiet room and caught yourself wondering if anyone will visit, that's what it's like all the time. I spent Thanksgiving once in a cafeteria with about 20 other residents. A handful of them had families sitting at the tables, but many were alone, staring at the doors, secretly hoping someone would walk in. The quiet heartbreak in that room was palpable. If you think you can handle isolation or that it won't be that bad, take a moment to imagine being part of a household one day and then abruptly finding yourself in a building full of strangers. It's crushing and it happens faster than you think. My third regret, I completely lost my sense of purpose. Back in my house, I always had small projects to keep me busy. I'd mow the lawn, fix squeaky doors, reorganize the garage, try new recipes. Each task, no matter how trivial, gave me a sense of accomplishment. Even in my 70s and early 80s, I felt engaged with life. In the nursing home, I quickly discovered there's almost nothing for you to do. They serve your meals, they do your laundry, they vacuum the floor. At first, maybe that sounds fantastic. I deserve a break. But after a while, you realize you have nothing to wake up for. There's an activity schedule, sure, but it might be something like bingo every Tuesday or a karaoke night you're not really into. You can't choose your own larger pursuits because you're limited by time, staff availability, or the home's policies. It's not like you can go out to the hardware store anytime you want to pick up supplies for a new project. So you end up sitting for hours in front of the TV or chatting briefly with people in the hall. Time stretches out and you start to wonder, is this all that's left of my life? I met a man named Richard who used to build furniture in his garage. He told me he never thought he'd lose his passion for carpentry. But when you have no tools, no space, and no encouragement, your creativity dries up. He said it felt like a piece of his soul was locked away. If you have a hobby or a routine that makes you feel alive, imagine how you'd cope if one day you just couldn't do it anymore, with no clear alternative. That's what it's like. And if you're still here listening, please write a quick note in the comments that you've made it this far. That small act keeps this conversation alive and tells me you're committed to learning the full truth. My fourth regret, I didn't realize how quickly my physical health would decline once I stopped being so active. I used to do my own grocery shopping, which might involve walking around the store for half an hour. I'd rake leaves in the yard, climb up a small ladder to clean the gutters if I felt up to it, or drive over to the local rec center to meet friends for light exercise. In the nursing home, there's a lot of emphasis on, let us help you with that. While it's well-intentioned, it means I wasn't carrying groceries or taking as many steps as I used to. If I needed something from across the building, a staff member might say, wait, I'll bring it to you. That might seem kind, but the cumulative effect is that you barely move. And believe me, your body notices. Within a few months, my joints felt stiffer, my stamina dropped, and tasks that used to be easy started feeling like a chore. My posture got worse from excessive sitting. Doctors talk about the importance of staying mobile as you age, and they're right. But in a place that's designed for maximum convenience, you lose the everyday movements that keep you agile. I've seen people who walked into the nursing home with a cane, and within a year they were almost entirely dependent on a wheelchair. The staff would say, we'll do physical therapy, and maybe they did. But once you're in that environment 24/7, every aspect of your lifestyle nudges you toward less physical effort. It's like your muscles and bones realize they're no longer needed at the same capacity. If you're proud of your independence and still enjoy moving around on your own, imagine how you'll feel when that independence slips away faster than you ever expected. My fifth regret, I had no idea how completely I'd lose my privacy and dignity. At home, if I wanted to have a snack at 2 a.m., I could. If I wanted to leave my dishes in the sink until morning, I could. There were no prying eyes. But in a nursing home, you might have staff members coming in at random hours to check on you. Sometimes they knock. Sometimes they don't wait for an answer before entering. You might share a room with a stranger, depending on the facility and your budget. Even if you have your own room, it's not really yours. You can't lock the door and hang a "Do Not Disturb" sign with complete confidence. And it's not only about physical privacy, there's a certain loss of emotional dignity. Personal decisions like what you wear or how you arrange your space might be dictated by the facility's rules. If you need help bathing or using the bathroom, that's another level of vulnerability. I remember one moment that really drove it home for me. I was trying to read quietly one afternoon, and suddenly a nurse walked in with a new staff member, giving her a tour. They introduced her, but it felt invasive. They apologized quickly and walked out, but it reminded me that no matter what, I wasn't in charge of my environment. My room was treated like part of the facility, not my personal domain. This kind of intrusion can wear you down. You start feeling like you're in a fishbowl, and after a while, you might stop caring about small personal preferences because it's too exhausting to assert them. If you like your autonomy, if you value the little freedoms like deciding when and how to tidy up, trust me, you'll miss that more than you can imagine. My sixth regret, I truly believed I could leave whenever I wanted, but discovered it's harder than you think. I went in with the mindset, if this doesn't work out, I'll just go back to my house or move in with family. But once I was in, the logistics became complicated. My house was sitting empty, and it felt lonely and abandoned when I visited. There were maintenance costs, property taxes, and a dozen other small things to handle. My kids suggested maybe we sell it, since you're not really living there. And that conversation had me on edge. The longer I stayed, the more it felt like I'd lose everything if I tried to return. Even if I did go back, I'd already grown weaker physically. Some tasks that were easy 6 months before now felt overwhelming. My confidence dropped. I worried about how I'd handle falls or sudden health issues on my own. And let's not forget the financial side. Nursing homes are expensive, and over time, your savings can dwindle quickly, making it harder to put down a deposit on a new condo or pay for in-home care if you wanted to switch strategies. Meanwhile, family might move on, rearrange their home space, or simply get used to the idea that dad is taken care of, so they're not planning on you coming back. Emotionally, that's a huge hurdle. It's like the outside world keeps going, and you're left in a place where the walls feel more permanent every day. One man I met, named Harold, was sure he'd only stay a few months while his house got renovated. A year later, his family had rented his house out to tenants, and he had nowhere to go without evicting them. He felt helpless, and that's when it hit me. Once you give up your life outside, the path back is far more complicated than you'd ever guess. So ask yourself, am I really prepared for the possibility that once I enter, I might not leave? Now that I've laid all this out, you might be thinking, so are you telling me never to consider a nursing home? No, not exactly. Some folks need specialized care. They have serious medical conditions that demand constant attention, or they truly have no support network nearby. In those cases, a nursing home can be a lifesaver, literally. But if you're someone who still has reasonable mobility, a decent support system, or the means to arrange for in-home care, think long and hard about whether you want to trade your freedom for a promise of convenience. Because it's not just a question of whether you'll get 3 meals a day or have a nurse on call. It's also about your emotional well-being, your sense of identity, and how you feel when you wake up in the morning. Do you feel like your life is still yours? If you're still with me, I appreciate your time. Not everyone wants to hear the unvarnished truth. Sometimes when I share this story, people get defensive. They say, but my dad was so happy in his nursing home, or my relative had a great experience. You're just exaggerating. I'm not saying no one ever has a positive outcome. I'm saying there are aspects to this decision that a glossy brochure or a well-intentioned family member might not emphasize. I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you've had a similar experience or if you're worried about facing one. You might help someone who's on the fence see the full picture. And if you found these lessons valuable, please let me know. Every comment or shared experience can be a guiding light for someone still deciding. I'll add one more note. Even if you do choose a nursing home, it's not too late to fight for your independence in smaller ways. Insist on walking around the facility when you can. Maintain hobbies within the limits of your environment. Try to stay connected with family through phone calls or video chats. And set boundaries about your personal space. Don't just adapt to the system if the system doesn't serve your emotional and physical well-being. There might be staff who truly care and will help you find small ways to maintain your dignity. Yet the reality is that the structure of institutional living often discourages real independence. My advice is to walk into it with eyes wide open, and not the naive optimism I once had. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you found this video helpful, consider hitting the like button or sending it to a friend who might need to hear these lessons. It can be hard to talk about these issues openly. Our society sometimes treats the elderly like they're invisible, or like their opinions don't matter. But I believe our voices can still make a difference. I hope my story sparks a deeper conversation with your family, your friends, and most importantly, with yourself. Ask questions, do your research, and don't be afraid to explore alternatives before you decide. Because once you're in, it's a lot tougher to get out than most people realize. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember that your life is precious, no matter what age you are. I wish I had someone warn me before I made my choice, but at least I can pass the warning on to you. We only get one life, and how we spend our later years is just as important as how we lived our youth. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments section. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.